And good morning. Today is Tuesday, March the 15th, 2022, and these are things you might not have heard for this day, which is actually things you might have heard that happened in the last day or so. So that's kind of how this works out because it's early morning. So these are some things that you might not have picked up on in the newscast yesterday and a little past that, the last 30 hours or so, that you can talk about going forward, make yourself feel kind of smart, and make yourself be able to jump into other conversations for people who may have heard some of these things. These are some of the newscast pieces that did not quite make it to the main newscast. We are not your primary source of news. We like to say we are your tertiary source of news. We actually know what that word means. We know that we're not the main source you're going to. We're one of those odd sources, but because of that, when you check us out, we've got a few things up our sleeve that you may not have picked up talking to Wolf Blitzer yesterday. So that's what we have coming up here. Find out more information about what we do for the whole shebang that is called The Conversation Project. Visit our website, thisisaconversationproject.com, and check that out. Also, past episodes of these things on the YouTube and other issues we're doing, plus links to our sponsors and partnerships page. We'll do more begging in a bit about sponsorships and partnerships coming on. But first, let's get on to the news that we have. 5 stories for the day that you might not have picked up on that may enhance your life or may help you jump into other conversations for other people. Starting with the first one. Fox News reporter Benjamin Hall is injured while reporting from Ukraine. NPR.org is our source for this one, but obviously Fox News, as the news organization, has the info on their reporter. Benjamin Hall injured while covering the war in Ukraine. The network said on Monday. This was something happened early Monday coming out there with the Fox Media CEO, Suzanne Scott, giving a statement on what's going down. They don't have a lot of details on this, as you would expect, but essentially there are a lot of journalists you have heard about who are being injured, being dealt with as if they were the common civilians in Ukraine, who are being dealt with as if they are just random soldiers who basically are being shot at indiscriminately in Ukraine by Russian soldiers. What we're seeing here, for an example, is yesterday we talked about Brett Renault, who oddly enough is not a native of Little Rock, but have been more or less known as a native Little Rock for all the things he's done for Arkansas. In fact, including starting the Little Rock Film Festival and doing a lot of work, splitting time between Memphis and Little Rock for his home, but doing all sorts of great documentaries, all sorts of great work. And that was something that we picked up. We did yesterday when he was killed off the weekend. That was in yesterday's news for things you might have heard. This is, I want to say, just another reporter doing his job, but it's another reporter doing the job of getting the word out and showing what's going on. It makes me wonder just how bad it was 30, 40 years ago, or even further back towards World War I, 2 days, how getting news reports out of the scene were just as horrific, only obviously not as technology advanced and not as quick and easy, and so easy to actually verify with citizens themselves just holding up their cellular devices and showing what's happening in the area. We are sending out our thoughts and prayers to Mr. Hall and his family, the family of Mr. Hall, and the Fox News family themselves, working with him over this point of time. This is not the last time we'll do thoughts and prayers today, so just bear with me on this one. Next story for this morning is this one right here. USF baseball coach Nino Giarratano fired over horrible accusations of abuse, including Phallic helicopter swings. This is from ruralbible.com, and this is the story that I teased yesterday. Let's go deeper into the actual story before I go into the helicopter. So the University of San Francisco fired Nino Giarratano from his head coach in baseball on Sunday. He had been the coach for the team since, I think, 1999. There's a typo. They do a lot of typos. They have 199, so I'm sure it's 1999 when that's supposed to be. He's being sued by former players in a big class action suit that has all sorts of allegations. Also relieved of duties and in the lawsuit is former assistant Troy Nakamura. The program is said to have, quote, included persistent psychological abuse and repeated inappropriate sexual misconduct, unquote. That's actually conduct, unquote, from the allegations. Oh, what happened? A whole lot of stuff, including the helicopter. Now, I mentioned yesterday the plane ride from hell, and that comes up for him, something that Ric Flair, who is beloved, by the way, used to do on his trips and in the locker room, called the helicopter, which is essentially, as stated in this thing, swing his junk around by itself. And he did it a lot, that being the coach. and maybe Nakamura as well. I'm not quite sure on that one, but essentially they are being sued, and all coaches have been fired for just being a bunch of goofballs and taking locker room behavior beyond what locker room behavior was going to be. The people in charge are essentially punishing the students, the players, for just wanting to play baseball by just being jerks, running a weird and hard program, and doing odd sexual stuff that it should have figured out was dumb back in their 20s, continuing to do for the kids now. We'll see how this one goes. We'll probably look for an actual story write up on this as it goes along and sees how this case progresses in the news. Let's go to story number 3 today. And like I said, we have more thoughts and prayers going off. This one is going to be one that's going to be even bigger, believe it or not. WWE Hall of Famer Scott Hall, trailblazing wrestler known as Razor Ramon, dead at 63. We pulled this from USA Today, and this is one that we've been watching for days. Scott Hall, the actual situation here, Scott Hall was having surgery, I believe, on a hip or a knee. He's in very bad physical condition after all the bumps and bruises and all the abuse for alcohol and things like that. But he was having surgery on his leg, and he ended up having 3 heart attacks during the actual surgery, 3 in the span of the surgery. Put on life support until they can gather all the family. That happened late yesterday. Put him off life support, and he survived off life support for 4 or 5 hours, I believe, until he passed late in the evening. Like I said, this news has been floating on the internets and floating around the people in the wrestling community for a few days, since the weekend when the surgery happened, and waiting for this to happen. So this was not a surprise. It was just a matter of sort of a relief, if you will, because the passing of Hall, with all the just pain and suffering that he's gone through in recent years, and just sort of the trauma he's had, a lot of it of his own volition in his life. Scott Hall having lots and lots of famous, extremely famous stories in the wrestling world about his non-sobriety and how it got him into trouble many, many times. Scott Hall made the Razor Ramon character, who is supposed to be Cuban American, but he ain't. I believe, in fact, he may be European from all standpoints. He's a white dude that made this Cuban guy wrestling character who walked around throwing toothpicks at people and called himself the bad guy, and make being the bad guy the coolest thing around. If you are a wrestling fan, he and Shawn Michaels, while not inventing the ladder match, the very first ladder match I remember seeing on television, televised for a pay-per-view, that ladder match essentially broke the mold on those types of matches and made them something that became a staple in the wrestling world. They don't have a lot of scaffolding matches and cage matches, things like that in the past, which is just sort of cheap and cheesy things to do for the crowds in the area. Now it's something that's a lot of people were to put a lot of work into, make a big thing. That's just a minor thing. Razor Ramon, or AK Scott Hall, had been living for a while with Diamond Dallas Page. Diamond Dallas Page, another wrestler who turned his need to fix his aching back into a franchise of yoga, of all things. Brought in a lot of old-time wrestlers who had took bad decisions and had bad bodies, and brought them back to life. Jake the Snake Roberts famously thanked Diamond Dallas Page for helping him get back in shape. Razor Ramon moved in with the 3 as to work out together. Right now, there's some other wrestlers of various length of knownness, if you will, who are living with Diamond Dallas Page, who are trying to help them get back onto a path of better. We're sending out lots and lots of prayers to the family of Scott Hall, the family of the bad guy, Razor Ramon, who is now passed at the age of 63. Our next story is this one. Pregnant woman, baby die after Russian bombing in Mariupol. APNnews.com is the source for this. And this doesn't seem like a fairly, very basic story. There are people dying in Ukraine because of the bombing in Mariupol, a lot of them there, and because Mariupol was the source of the women's clinic, of the baby of the maternity ward that was bombed a few days ago. One would expect this to happen. What makes this one an interesting and more poignant story is the picture that it brought out. The picture of the woman on a stretcher who was being pulled out of the rubble that was going on, and then finding out later she did not survive, and the baby did not survive as well. Very graphic story and details on how this thing played out. So it's hard to really go deep into it. I can show you very quickly the picture that they have in the from the article in AP News. That's the picture that was taken of her being rushed out of the rubble, and of course taken to hospital and medical facility nearby as possible to not survive, and also not have the baby survive. So that's a very sad story that we are dealing with right now. Just more and more of the actual news, the actual what's going on in Ukraine right now. That if you're not seeing this and you're not welling up inside, there's something wrong with you. Our next story is a little bit lighter. It goes to Nirvana. It goes back to the 90s. Nirvana, something in the way Spotify streams up 1,200% after the Batman release. Hypebeast gives us this one. And the Nirvana baby can't get out of the news because when you talk about this came from the album Nevermind, which has the baby who's naked, who has the adult who's now suing Nirvana for all sorts of weird stuff. But this is not so much about them or him particularly. This is about the music, this one song, Something in the Way, that was a very odd, if you will, from my standpoint, but a influence to the movie The Batman. Number one, it was used in a lot of the trailers, a lot of the run up to The Batman. Number two, it has a parallel that Robert Pattinson essentially used sort of the theme, the sound of the lyrics, and the way the music sound to create his take on the Batman. And the director himself said while they were working on bits and pieces of it in the early stages, listen to a lot of Nirvana, listen to a lot of this stuff in the air because it was just sort of the tone given there. The song, Something in the Way, now up on Spotify. Most people are not getting a lot of Spotify hits. A lot of it is Ukraine stuff, oddly enough, and a lot of it is Joe Rogan stuff, oddly enough. But people looking up for this one, to Spotify for this one, much similar to the way people were looking for the magic number after release of Spider-Man No Way Home. But that song, famously, not available for streaming for reasons. Let's move on to another story. This next one is this one. HBO Max and Discovery Plus will be combined into one platform. Variety.com with the source on this one. And this is a pretty simple story of two big companies falling in love, joining together in holy matrimony, and then, stripping themselves of the assets because, you can't have two sets of washing machines and all these spices left in the pantry. And you decide that, maybe it's okay to give up on, all that fatty food because you love her or something like that. Discovery, the company, is going to come a part of the Time Warner family when AT&T Warner Media closes the deal for the big old Warner Brothers Discovery mega marriage. And what they're going to do with the Discovery Plus platform, the streaming platform, and the HBO Max platform is join them together. So all your Discovery Plus shows that you're watching right now will be on the HBO Max platform. Will prices change? Probably. Will you hate the new app? Probably. Will you hate the app with Discovery if you're already using HBO Max? You probably will hate that as well. But this is how these things work. You got too many things, you have to put them together and make them go on. Instead of having two separate services, it's actually better to combine them into one so there's one less thing going on. There are too many streaming services out there that make the whole landscape cluttered. My opinion, not a stated fact, but the opinion that's shared by many, many people who are now struggling to figure out which streaming service to juggle for the one show they want on the one services they want, as opposed to what's going to give them the bigger bang for their buck. This is the opposite of debundling all the stuff from cable is giving us. Now you have to buy everything separately. A la carte kind of works in some cases. And so now I can see what the getting the premium streaming services is doing to us. HBO or Warner Brothers Discovery, whatever they're called, is trying to do us a solid by making them all one at some point in time. Let's take a quick sort of sidebar for a moment and deal with sponsors because that's how things get paid, how we pay the bills, the lights, buying the very extravagant teas that we drink, i.e. store brand black teas. This is a quick spot that we're going to remind you that you need to put more money into investment. You need to look towards your future and look for your future today. We want to help you out by offering you this great thing from Fundrise. Go to thisisaconversationproject.com/fundrise. This is the conversationproject.com/fundrise, and get yourself into the world, the future, as it says, of real estate investing. You invest in real estate, not so much going out there and buying your own house and then trying to fix it up and flip it and sell it. You invest in real estate as a fund, just like you're buying for stocks and bonds. You invest in various real estate funds, and as they go out there and acquire properties, you make dividends off the properties, off the fund. You fund the actual project, just like big boys, but you don't have to spend big boy money. Get started for very little money. And here's the thing you get if you follow this link right here. When you join Fundrise, they will give you 90 days of all your activities for free. There are normally some people, the managing fees will take their piece, they're out of the workings that's for working the fund, getting more acquisitions and taking things out and advancing things along the books. You'll get that for absolutely free, no fees for the first 90 days as you use this link here for us. This is the conversationproject.com/fundrise. This is the conversationproject.com/fundrise. We get a little bit of kickback with this as well as a finder's fee. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it doesn't cost you very much to start being a real estate investor with Fundrise. Now, our final story of the morning is this one. This story vetted by you, at least. Walgreens replaced some fridge doors with screens, and some shoppers are absolutely hating it. Not quite read right, but you get the point. CNN.com, that source. And now Walgreens has a lot of problems. For some reason, I don't know why they're necessarily hitting up the drugstores, probably because just the way they're built and the way they run around. You can get through them and pull stuff out. That's where the shoplifting's going. But one thing they're doing is sort of modernize things that's not necessarily about the shoplifting, is the refrigerator doors. Literally, the doors are no longer open refrigerators where you can look in and see that there's eggs here, there's bacon there, there's where the pizzas are, the ice cream is here. They have video screens on the door that say, this is what's in this door, and here's the quantity that's left. It's all part of a way to sort of keep up with the inventory, the actual inventory that's going on, and people hate it. As you would expect, people just want to see the eggs and the milks and the pizzas and the ice cream sitting in the shelf for themselves with their own eyes, not have a big brother screen tell them that there's milk here. They're not digging it. This is something that will probably become a national trend in many places, where you'll start seeing more video screens covering over more things in your grocery stores. But for the moment, it's not taking up, no one's very happy about it. It's not taking up glad tidings, if you will, at the Walgreens stores where they've worked these things out. So one quick jaunt into the future, and this is a story that we call a teaser. Just like the story we had about the baseball coach that got fired for doing the helicopter in front of his players. This is a story that's going to be posting in about an hour or so. So if you'd like to talk more about this one, you can go to this story when it pops up in the feed. We'll explain that in a second. If you don't, then ignore it. You're free to do that. But this one brings up our old friend Keith Olbermann, who I am still a big fan of, even though he is pretty much nutballs at this point, and how he is doing what he does, calling people out. Because that's what Olbermann does. Keith Olbermann calls for detaining Tucker Carlson, Tulsi Gabbard. Sorry about that. They are Russian agents. So there's a lot of talk about the Russian disinformation and how Americans are actually contributing to that. Tulsi Gabbard was famously pegged as a Russian operative by, of all people, Hillary Clinton when she was running for president, and Tucker Carlson is getting nuttier and nuttier and nuttier and nuttier as he becomes the biggest name on Fox News. You want to talk more about Olbermann, who oddly enough was considered to come back to TV and MSNBC, take his own time slot back for the departed, or the hiatusing a person there whose name is escaped me, but we have to keep moving. It is coming back in one of his weird rants on the internet to talk about Tulsi Gabbard and Tucker Carlson, who probably need to be talked about, but it is what it is. If you want to talk more about this one and give me time to figure out who the hell I'm talking about, you can vote this one up in the stories coming up over the day for the day part. And that voting up happens a lot like this. Stop by first our website. This is theconversationproject.com, and check out what's all behind the scenes of the Conversation Project, how it works, what's going on, why we're doing this, trying to get the most conversational stories with the most conversational people and talk about things in an open forum. No one is right. No one is wrong. Sometimes we are really, really loud because we disagree, but it is what it is. Our feeds on Facebook, facebook.com/This is the Conversation Project, and twitter.com/th_conversation. Follow those sites, those feeds on your regular feed checks, or go directly to them if you want to. And as you're checking your news stories, your new stuff, your Facebook pictures, your selfie stuffs, see what we're talking about on our feeds. And if you like them, love them, hate them, share the stories, read them, share them, engage with them. The more engagement they get, the higher score they get every single day. Tuesday through Friday, we pick the top 15 stories of the day. We post about 33 stories today, specifically that got in the window. We take the top 15 stories and we choose from those stories 5 stories to give you as things you might not have heard, things that were the most conversational. So if you want to affect what we're talking about, you can simply do that by going to our feeds and following along and then tuning in every morning and seeing how that thing works out. A few more things you might not have heard. Celebrity birthdays. Yay! Today on the March 15th, celebrating birthdays for Bret Michaels. Still made it happen. The beautiful Eva Longoria and Mike Tomlin, who is, I believe at this point, the longest tenured coach, period, at one job. And he is the longest tenured black coach. And we've talked a lot about that for a while. And he is a fairly angry person, although he's great with kids and kittens, not so much with players and people sometimes. It is what it is. By the way, today is Everything You Think Is Wrong Day, which means everything you think is wrong. And you should consider that everything you think may be wrong. Your core beliefs may be wrong or not. Your choice. Choose that or not. Or you just call it March 15th if you want to. By the way, one last thing that you might have heard for today. Women are apparently attracted to the scent of Good and Plenty licorice, specifically, and cucumber. So if you're out there still in the dating mating world and you're tired of the swiping, rub a cucumber across your face and sit at the bar and see how that works out. Yeah, you do that. You do that. Let us know how that works out. In the meantime, we're going to wrap this thing up for today. This has been Things You Might Have Heard for Tuesday, March the 15th, 2022. My name is still Jay Cleveland Payne, and we will see you tomorrow as we're already gathering news stories ready to post for you. So you can tell us which stories are pretty interesting, and we can tell the world some things that they might have missed if they're stuck watching MSNBC and that anchor who's not there, whose name I can't think of at the moment. So they're probably not watching her. In the meantime, keep on. Make sure you stay hydrated. Make sure you stay limber. Make sure you stay on task because you have plenty of things to get done in the world, and we cannot do this thing without you. We'll see you tomorrow morning with more things that you might not have heard.